So next one, we're going to look at some more charts and things. So the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, is a measure of the average prices paid by consumers for typical goods and services. So basically, it decides like what people pay for a certain thing. So like right now, toilet paper is a big thing. The Consumer Price Index decides like what the average is for the price of toilet paper. So if something's like $30 for toilet paper, it's obviously way high. If it's $2 for a roll of 20 toilet paper, it's too low. So the Consumer Price Index gives you kind of an idea of what the average should be. A higher CPI indicates the prices have risen. So we're looking at some inflation there. The table below shows the CPI for several years, as well as a percent change in CPI over the previous year. So we're seeing years, what the CPI was for a given item, and then and what people are paying for certain goods. And then this is the percentage of change. So 3.8 going up, going down, going up, going up, going up. So they want to know for the years included in the table, what was the median? So that's important to note that it's asking you about median, because this is another one where you're going to have to use a little bit of math. If you remember mean, median, and mode, median is going to be your middle number. Obviously, this isn't math, so they aren't going to ask you to do anything super crazy in algebra. It's going to give you a general idea, and you're going to be able to pick it out pretty easily if you just know what you're looking for. So with this one, like I said, it's looking for median. So to do that, all you have to do, you can ignore this, you can ignore this. Basically, you just want to go from the most expensive to the lowest, and you're going to put these in order. So your highest is 3.8. Next highest is going to be 3.2. After that, you're going to have, 2.1, 2.1, 1.6, 1.6, and then your lowest is obviously going to be negative 0.4. So when you look at this, what's your middle number here? Sorry, I said 3.6 on that. I meant 3.6. Or 3.2, I'm sorry, holy cow. So you're looking at your middle number. So just looking at this, putting them in order from greatest to lowest, that's what you do for median. Your main number here, your number that you're looking for is 201. So you're going to just put that down here, 2.1. So 2.1 is your median number that they are asking. That simple. Don't overthink these. It's very easy to get lost in the weeds. There's a lot of reading and stuff, and they kind of try to confuse you. You'll see that on the language arts one as well, that they try to confuse you a little bit, but we'll get through it. If you know what to look for and you kind of do these on your own, I would suggest that if you do watch these videos and you want to watch me jabber on, that you get a copy of these. You request it from our website, and you can get a copy of these and kind of do them along, and you'll be able to see kind of what they're asking. You don't need to really know a lot of extraneous information, like I said earlier, because they aren't going to ask that. You don't need to know like dates and names and things like that. They're going to give you all the information you need. So the next question, number 6 here. So the 15th Amendment to the Constitution ratified, meaning it became an actual amendment. So ratification means they put it on the books and it's there to stay unless it's taken off at a later date. But for now, it's there. So that's what ratified means. Was ratified in 1870. So we're going to look at this date, 1870 here. And that's kind of an important date. Declared that U.S. citizens have the right to vote and shall not be denied on account of race. So basically what this is saying is that nobody, depending on your race, so black, white, any of that stuff, you can't be denied voting. So this is a huge amendment. It said that everybody could vote equally. It's still kind of a thing today, even, that people are worried about, but this is where it came from. So 1870 Fifth Amendment made it so everybody had the right to vote without denial on race. So, however, some states found ways to continue to restrict voting rights for almost a century. So, almost another, like 100 years. And then, for example, Mississippi, 1890 Constitution. So, states had a constitution. Restricted African American voting rights by imposing a poll tax and literacy test. So, what they're saying is certain states would find ways around this by either making it so you had to pay to vote, or that you had to take a literacy test, like a reading test, before you could vote. So 1870s were coming out of the Civil War at that area. So African Americans especially are very limited in income. They're one of the poorest populations. They, are very undereducated, as many other minority populations are compared to whites. So by making them pay or making them have to read, then you're excluding them. So they're finding a way around. It's basically a loophole. Kind of a chintzy way to do things, but they did it. So, however, in the Voting Rights Act, so we have another Voting Rights Act of 1965, Congress outlawed, meaning made it so you can't do that. You can't put any restrictions on voting. So basically in 1965, they were like, no, everybody gets the right to vote. That's just how it is. You can't put like a poll tax. You can't charge people. You can't make it a race thing. You can't make people read. You have to give them reasonable and equal access to voting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the next question, so what we're looking for in the question, here's a timeline. On the timeline above, place 2 dots on the years in which voting rights were expanded. That's an important one here, expanded, in the United States, because it's asking what 2 times, like what years were voting rights leaping forward, going forward, instead of being stuck or staying in the weeds. So, like I said, the reason I checked these 2 and not 1890 is because this one moved voting rights forward more than anything. Said everybody has a right to vote. Then 1890 comes along, Mississippi tries to stop that, and they try to make it go backwards. So we don't want 1890. That's just they're just throwing that in there to kind of mess with you a little bit. The next one that makes it move forward, 1965. So 2 move forwards, 1870. We're going to go ahead and put a dot there. And 1965, kind of in the middle here. There you go. So those are the 2 that expanded it. Pretty simple. It's easy to get lost in all the wording and things like that. So sometimes it helps to read it a couple times if you can, speed read through it a little bit, or read it once and then kind of like skim it again and look for the important dates. It's always good to read this and then read the question too to see what they're asking you, to make sure that you're looking for the right thing. So, number 7. Like the ancient Chinese, the ancient Greeks, so meaning they're similar, is what they're saying, thought that a sound political system and well-established social relationships were necessary for a stable society. Greek rule was decentralized, meaning they had multiple groups that would cover different things. They had like a senate, they had different councils for different things, so they were decentralized. There wasn't like one power right in the middle that decided everything. And as a result, many political structures coexisted. However, in contrast, meaning opposite to, Chinese rule was largely centralized, meaning they had one single political system that decided things for everybody. The Greeks placed more value on councils and participation and law. So more value on like little smaller pockets deciding different things. It's like a breakout group. If you've ever been in one of those, there, you break out to try to decide something, then you come together and everybody figures it out. Whereas the Chinese focused on bureaucracy, so politics, and hierarchy and rules. Hierarchy is like you have the president, vice president, you have people down in hierarchy that decide together, and sometimes they decide different things depending on what they're doing, but there's a hierarchy. Like basically your boss, they decide, and then it comes down to you. If you have a question, you go ask your boss. And then rules. So rules like set rules of society that everybody follows, not quite as strict as laws that the Greeks focused on, but rules, like general rules. Like it's a general rule that you don't, go up and spit on somebody. That's also a law, but it's kind of a rule too. So we're looking at, based on the paragraph, what did the ancient Greeks and the ancient Chinese have in common in regard to politics and government? So it's asking what they have together, what they both believe. So it's going to say both governed through a hierarchical bureaucracy. So if you read this, it says the Greeks placed more value on council, Chinese on bureaucracy and hierarchy. So we can go ahead and black that one out because that's not true. So then we look at the next one. Both valued a stable political framework. Well, that's kind of the first sentence they have up here, is that both the Chinese and the Greeks thought a sound political system and well-established society were necessary for a stable society. So that's going to be your answer. You can look at the next two. You don't have to. It's easy. If you know the answer, just go ahead and click that answer if that's what you're sure of. You can look at the next one, but they're both not going to be correct because neither one of them, only one had a centralized government and only one had a decentralized government. So there's kind of that.